Well, thank you both for joining. Sorry, it took us just a minute there to make sure we got all online, but we're really excited to have you here today. What I was thinking is we'll kind of start off today, and I'm going to let you each introduce yourselves if you don't mind, kind of sharing where you're from, what you guys do for a living, and we'll just kind of start there, and then I'll have some follow-up questions for you. So, Ryan, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm Ryan Storey. I work for Line to Line. I'm born and raised in Columbia, Tennessee. Went to school, Mississippi State University, Bachelor's of Turf Management. Then went to Ole Miss for a few years, take care of their athletic facilities. Then I went to a golf course in Louisiana, 36-hole country club. Had a kid on the way, so moved back home. Was at Vanderbilt until 2021, and Bill Marbet got me started in this industry when I was 13 or 14 years old. So came to work for him to finish my career, hopefully. So that's my backstory.
Bill?
Marbet, longtime Columbia, Tennessee resident. Got in the business through your kids played little league baseball, and dads had to work on the field and fell in love with work playing in the dirt, I guess is what we say. Um, there we go. Um,
There we go.
Now, sorry. Um, but started Southern Athletic Fields in 1995, somewhere in there. So been in the sports field business for the past 30 years, 30 plus years. And hadn't worked a day, as they say, I hadn't worked a day in my life if you love what you do. And I have truly enjoyed this industry that we're in.
Awesome. So share with me a little bit about kind of the area that you guys cover. I know you both travel, you move around quite a bit. So what does that look like on a day-to-day basis?
I'll let Ryan have that one.
Oh, well, like Bill said, we started locally, just kind of in Middle Tennessee, and uh, we do a lot in Middle Tennessee, anywhere from park and rec to college, to some professional sports. This year we've branched out. We've gone from Arizona and went to Arizona State to work on their field with pads and nets, and all the way over to University of Florida, and been down to Mississippi, Louisiana, do a little bit in Texas, North Carolina. We're not real cold weather guys, so we try to stay out of the Northeast. But we'll go if there's business there.
And when you guys go out, when you guys do these visits, you do these sites, like what does that look like? Typical visit. You show up on site, what happens from there?
Well, usually, somebody will call and say, "Hey, we need pads, nets, dirt, whatever. What can you do for us?" And we'll make a site visit with them. We show up and they explain to us their issues, and we just try to help them walk through it, solve them, give them a couple different ideas, try to find out a budget, what they're trying to stay in, or a lot of places don't have the money that it requires to be a really high level field. So we try to do what we can to help them get their field better.
I think that we've seen, across all different sectors of the turfgrass industry, there's been a lot of change in the past few decades. On the sports turf side in particular, I think there's been a lot of change in how some of those recreational sites are used and how sports facilities are utilized. A lot of change in demand, expectations for what they can tolerate in terms of traffic. We see more facilities that I feel like are used for a variety of things, possibly not even sports in some cases. So what are some of the big trends that you guys have observed as you've gone out, you've traveled? What are you guys seeing that seems innovative, seems interesting? What are you seeing that maybe seems like a challenge that we're increasingly going to have to learn to navigate in the industry?
I think the challenge that we've had as the sports field industry has evolved, how many fields, and when the synthetic turf came to be in the 90s, we said nobody will be able to afford these. But now we see not only it's down into high schools, and we're seeing leagues that are going to synthetic through their municipalities, and it's I think it's a twofold. One is labor to maintain natural playing surfaces is a lot, and it may be one way or the other. It may be a misconception that if you put in a synthetic field, if there's no maintenance, which we all know that that's not so, but it is reduced maintenance, and it does increase play, and as travel ball and sports in general are increasing the demand for space, and what you just said, if you have a synthetic field, if it rain is always the issue, which I know that this is not a real fact, but the percentage of days that it rains are a lot fewer than the partly cloudy to sunny days that we have. But still, there's an element that we have to maintain, and it's expensive to maintain. Either one of it's expensive to start with the synthetic. It's expensive if you maintain a natural field correctly. So that's where we tried to roll with the times, if you will, to get into the other things at our company, where we can still be involved, but with branding and backstop netting and the protective things that all fields have to have. So that's we're trying to evolve and adapt as the times change. Ryan, you may have something to add to that.
I mean, as far as our local stuff, uh, it's kind of a double-edged sword. Is kids need a place to play, and the lack of facilities has been an issue in the past as far as practice sites and game sites, and the traffic that those places see because of the lack of other facilities to be able to spread out and use them. But in the same token, I feel like that's funded by taxpayer dollars most of the time, and they should be used from February, March until October, November. And it's our job as turf managers to be able to recover and recoup and do the right agronomic things to get them back playing every year. And then when you get into the higher level sports, football stadium is not a football stadium anymore. It's an event space. So
That's right.
if they're not playing football in there, then they've got to figure out a way to make revenue. And that's concerts, monster trucks, soccer friendlies, all the above. And we're seeing that with FIFA now, with places like Dallas that are having to blow out their corners of their end zones to make space for a FIFA field, and it's worth a buck to a lot of them. And so with those bigger stadiums, to me, even in the college aspect, is the main thing they're fighting is shade. Bigger the stadiums, the more shade there is on the grass, and bigger problem for turfgrass managers. So, like Bill said, workforce is one. We're trying a few different things here locally, trying to get in the FFA programs, CTE programs in high schools, just to let them know that, hey, it's an option. You may be painting hash marks on your football field that morning, but you may be snapping balls to Cam Ward in the afternoon, or fielding punts from Titans kicker, or just different things to try to get kids interested in this field. And in that same aspect, the pay has got to increase with the times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, I think what you guys are talking about is going to be interesting to a lot of our listeners, because we get a lot of county extension agents that join us across the state. We get a lot of folks from municipalities that join us across the state. You guys get to work very much across the spectrum. You just described it, right? Where some of our most public facing and most visited turf facilities are those that are going to have the most limited resources. And so, what are you guys seeing? I always get interested in this. Those facilities that are very limited in terms of their labor, in terms of their resources, what are you guys seeing that's done to help with efficiency, to help those facilities be successful? What are you seeing some facilities do to advocate for more resources or more support that seems to be working?
Um, I would say one of the largest ones is product selection, whether that's your variety of turf grass with Tiff Tough with their reduction in irrigation. On the dirt side, there's a product that we have is Safe Coat, and it's a lower maintenance um, infield material. Doesn't require the moisture that your typical infield clays do. Uh, Labor force, like I said, we're trying to get the high schools to where that could be some of your high schools, some of your park and recs. That could be their lab, so to say, where they go out and they help line a field for a game or paint football field logos or numbers or whatever their issue would be. It gives them a starting ground to at least help in their community and get a little bit of knowledge in turfgrass.
I think that one thing that I wish we could, and I've been in this for a long time, and the Tennessee Turfgrass has done tried their best and done, I think, a really good job in attempting, I guess might be the word, educate as many people as we possibly can about what it takes to maintain an athletic field, whether it be natural or artificial. Um, Both of them take a a a certain amount of maintenance and time. You can't just you can't let anything just sit there. And everything has to be maintained. And I think that's our challenge as in our side of the business, that we have to do our best to help organizations like the TTA to educate the not only the coaches are, but we need to get to the administrators and the people that control the money to for them to understand that this is an investment, and you just don't invest any amount of money without trying to preserve it or maintain it. So that's I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we continue to have, and it's been an issue uh, for a long, long time.
Yeah, and just to clarify here, so Bill's talking about our Tennessee Turfgrass Association. That's one of our professional organizations here in the state where we have good continuing education. We host a conference every year in Middle Tennessee, in Murfreesboro in January. You guys are both also involved in the Tennessee Valley SFMA. You're also, I know that Ryan, you attend the Carolinas SFMA, so Sports Field Managers Association. So let's touch on this briefly. Since you guys are both really involved in these service organizations, what do you feel the value is for a professional in this industry to be engaged with these types of groups? Um, what would you say to somebody that's considering joining something like that?
I think just to me, it's the camaraderie and sharing information with each other. I think that's just tremendously important. That it. I think I don't think there's very many people that have unique problems. So if you can get with your peers and discuss an issue that you may have, he may already have the solution for that. So it's just the interaction amongst the professionals or the people that are interested in maintaining these fields to to uh, to get together and share ideas. I think that's tremendously important.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah,
it's
I agree.
something. Sorry, Ryan, go
No,
ahead.
I'm saying that's the biggest thing to me is I've got guys that I can or and ladies that I can pick up the phone right now and call and hey, how you doing? This is what I've got going on. What are you doing that maybe somebody else is not doing? And in this industry, I don't think nobody that I've encountered is withholding any kind of information to not help, their friend down the road. And I mean, I've leaned on guys in high school, leaned on guys at the professional level, leaned on you guys in the education aspect of it. And that's our greatest asset as an industry, is our willingness to share our knowledge, share our practices, help the next guy out and overcome with the problems we have. And that's what these organizations do, whether you're in the Carolinas or you're in Tennessee or Alabama or Mississippi or Kentucky. We share knowledge everywhere. So we're all fighting the same problems, and hopefully we all can get the same answer.
I agree completely. And I think too, sometimes, and you guys chime in here as well. Like, I think sometimes this particular audience that you guys worked with, some aspects of that group tend to get kind of isolated, right? Like, we know that a lot of football fields here in Tennessee are managed by coaches that may not have a direct relationship with our turf grass industry. Or they may be folks that work for the school district or for the city or for the county and may not be aware of some of those resources. So I think trying to introduce more of those folks to those opportunities to connect with others, I think there's a lot of value in that. I want to come back a little bit to something that Bill, you've brought up a couple of times now, which is kind of this synthetic versus natural discussion, right? And we know that there's a place for both. When we're talking about sports field management in particular, you mentioned something about the importance of recognizing these things as an investment. Something that I see a lot as a specialist, and I'm sure you guys see as well, is a lot of times there's a very strong front end investment to get a new field, whether that's synthetic or natural. I would say very common for me to see this done on the synthetic side with no kind of long term plan for what to do once that field is built and installed. Maybe not a lot of investment in identifying somebody with expertise in how to maintain that field, equipment, long-term budget, because there is sometimes a perception that it's kind of a one and done. It's a no maintenance option. We raise a bunch of money, we put it in, and we're done. And so we know as professionals in the industry that that's not true. And so I guess my question that I would pose to you guys is recognizing the diversity of our audience, recognizing that I think this is an ongoing discussion where we have decision makers across the state constantly having these conversations that don't know much of anything about our industry. What are some things to think about when we're making that decision between should I have a synthetic or should I have a natural? What should somebody consider as part of that?
Go ahead, Ron.
Well, I think number one, you got to think of, what is your budget? Uh, is this going to be an upfront investment and the money's going to continue to roll in? Or is this going to be kind of, are we doing this to keep up with the Joneses? Which is what we've kind of done here in our county. I mean, it kind of hurts. We've got 4 or 5 dirt and grass guys sitting a mile down the road from our largest high school in the county. And our county just 25-30 million dollars. We turf, football, baseball, and softball at our 4 largest high schools.
28.
And it's $28 million. Yeah, $28 million. And so, we got a lot of people from California, New York, Texas, all these people moving in with big pockets and generating tax revenue. But when you ask the question, well, that's fine and dandy up front, but what's your 10-year plan? What are you going to do in 10 years when these things are wearing out, your fibers are wearing out, your base is getting locked up? What are you going to do? Well, I don't know. I mean, that's what we get. And so with the $28 million, we could reside every field in this county for quite a few years. And what's your labor force would be the next question. Do you have a guy you can send out and groom every 40 hours on the synthetic field, or do you have guys that can come out and mow and edge and chalk and paint and pack a mound, pack a plate, do those kinds of things? It's situational, but I'm always going to advocate for natural fields. That's just what I grew up on playing. It's when you slide in a baseball field and have to wipe the dirt off your pants and get out of your belt. I mean, to me, that's traditional baseball. And nothing against synthetic. There's obviously been a need for it in a lot of places, but I'm just a dirt and grass guy. You got anything to add, Bill?
Well, it may not be appropriate, but moving on. But the I'm going to use the term, and Ryan's going to laugh at this, but because it's an inside joke with us. But we as sports turf people have to realize the economic impact of playability, and that's, to me, that's is one thing that as sports turf professionals need to do a better job of with their superiors, whoever has their thumb on the purse strings, to teach them, if and we have this going on locally, that if we were to build a complex, a 3 or 4 field complex, that not only could you have your league play for the community, but there will be ample time to bring in outside people that will spend money in your county. And that's what we have to understand, how we can sell this to our people with hold the purse strings, to get these improvements on these fields, and whether it be soccer, football, baseball, softball, whatever. But we have to have the information and the knowledge to go to our superiors, our county city leaders, and say, this is, and there's information out there that you can get, if you bring in, say, 20,000 people, that's X number of dollars into the community that otherwise wouldn't be there. This is why we feel like this is a good investment for our local community.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and that can definitely help with advocating for improvements. I know that I've worked with counties across the state that is a huge consideration, because it can suddenly, for some of these parks departments, it can grant them access to hotel motel funds, right? Because they're contributing to something that brings people in to stay there locally. And so that can create some resource availability there. Ryan, I really like what you said. I think it does just come down to making really mindful choices and understanding why we're choosing one thing over another. I do think that a lot of folks are tempted to make a choice just based on what a neighboring county has done or what they feel the perception of something is going to be. And as you said, there's a place for synthetic turf. I think where we've seen there be a need in particular is we have some counties, some cities where they have one field that is being used for everything, and the amount of traffic and use wear on that field becomes almost unmanageable. We also, I've visited several facilities in the state that they're on floodplains. It can be very challenging to manage the water element sometimes on a natural grass field. So we have those instances where it's worth having that discussion. But I think it's really important, like you guys said, we got to think about what the long-term strategy is. And we also have to identify that these are not no maintenance permanent options. They come with different maintenance that requires different skill sets and different equipment. I think one thing that folks don't know is, when those fields do get worn out, Ryan, it's not cheap to dispose of them,
Oh,
right? That's
no.
that's a considerable expense that most folks aren't aware of. So,
Yeah.
um, let's see. So we did get a question. This is a question that comes up a lot, and I don't know how comfortable you guys are going to feel commenting on this. We can touch on it briefly, and then maybe at some point we can also have Dr. Sorokin on to talk about some of this more. But the question is, what are your thoughts on synthetic versus natural grass fields regarding body injury over a period of time?
Well, I can let Bill answer that one. He's heavily involved with officials and our Tennessee Athletic Coach Association, and he talks to them pretty frequently. And I think they can tell you the difference between whether they're officiating a game on grass or whether they're officiating a game on synthetic turf.
Oh, well, you put me on the spot there. A couple of different ways, but yes, I think, and this is no stats to back this up, but I can tell you that there is certainly a difference in with soft tissue, either and I'm sure there's studies out there, and you may have this, Becky, but there's soft tissue is certainly an issue with synthetic, just because it I know you have the rubber and things in there, but it's not the same as a well kept natural field. Um, to that point, I think it would be interesting to see that, and you may have some of that information, Becky, that I think we need that to share, but it still it goes back to uh, playability, and I'm not going to say that people don't care about somebody getting hurt, because obviously if it's yours, you certainly would care about having your child uh, injured on a natural or a synthetic field. So uh, that's a really difficult question to ask, and I don't know if I have a proper answer for it, but I know that from my experience officiating football on the synthetic as opposed to grass, that and I've been in mud games when we were literally ankle deep in mud, and I've been on a synthetic field that where at the end of the game you feel like you've been beaten up badly. So um, so there's again, there's two ways to look at it. Which one's right? I That's not up to me to answer, I don't think.
Yeah, let me take you out of the hot seat here, and I'll just say none of us on here are sports medicine experts, right? And this is an ongoing discussion, even at the highest levels of sports, right? Like this is an ongoing discussion that we still see happening with national leagues at the professional level. So I don't know that there's a clear-cut answer. And what I like about what Bill is saying is, again, it comes down to playability and management. Fields, regardless of whether they're synthetic or natural, if we don't take care of them well, if we don't invest in them, if we don't monitor the surface conditions, the hardness, you are going to increase the likelihood of injury. So I think it gets back to making good decisions based on how that facility is going to be utilized, doing what you can to invest in the people that are managing it, giving them access to training opportunities, educational opportunities, the equipment and resources that they need to manage those facilities well. Certainly my observation as I travel the state here is we have a lot of sports facilities that are used by youth and by school districts, et cetera, in the state, that they just don't have access to some of the equipment that we would love to see them have access to really manage a field well. And so these are ongoing questions. So I think it's a great question. It comes up often. But I think, yeah, there's not an easy answer. And I think it gets back to just doing everything that we can to keep moving the industry forward, doing good research, understanding how to manage both of these types of fields better and keep them safe, functional, playable. One thing that has come up a lot with the FIFA World Cup project is that FIFA actually has a hybrid field requirement. So we're starting to see mixtures of these things, right? Where there's a natural component and a synthetic component. And so this is an evolving science. James has a question here. It says, with Tennessee sitting in the center of the transition zone, how do you imbalance the intense summer heat on cool season grasses versus the athletic field traffic and recovery demands of warm season grasses during fall and spring sports seasons? Well, that is the question, I feel like. What are y'all's thoughts on that?
I mean, we live in one of the hardest areas there is to grow grass. So do you go cool season? Do you go warm season? What's gonna help? What's gonna hurt? And I think a lot of it comes down to knowing your maintenance capabilities, knowing what kind of equipment you have, knowing what kind of resources you have, and variety selection. Um, there's Bermudas out there that green up earlier and stay greener longer. Uh, and I haven't been in the maintenance side since 2021, but I can remember ryegrass nowadays is hanging on to July. They just keep getting more and more heat tolerant varieties. So um, it's kind of a danged if you do, danged if you don't situation. And a lot of to me, a lot of the problems that we have in this industry, we brought on ourselves because we just keep taking it to the next level, and then our fields go to the next level, and all of us want the best fields possible. And then, you have a really good season, and like, man, why can't we do this every year? Well, then that bar is set here. Well, then the next year you're trying to go here, and we bring a lot of it on ourselves. But that's the beauty of this industry, and we keep raising the bar. We keep wanting our fields to do better, and so we just have to kind of stay with the technology, with the resources of what's getting better, what varieties are performing better. A lot of it too, you go back to work with your vendors. Talk to your fertilizer guy, talk to your sod farm guys. What are they seeing out in their fields? They travel all over the state? Most of them do, so they can give you kind of a budget, a low budget fertility program if you need it, or they can go as high as you want. And so pick those guys' brains, pick our brains, whatever you want to do. And that's the best advice I think I can have for a transition zone is just
afraid to ask questions. No, there's no dumb question.
No.
But if there is, I've asked them all. So, and I think that in that case that you have to understand your season. When is your peak season? When's the peak that you're going to use? If it's the spring, you may use overseeded Bermuda. If it's summertime, if it's your peak, maybe all Bermuda. Then fall, obviously, a combination of the two. So you have to understand that, and because again, we're in Tennessee and in the Southeast, we see it all. And from day to, it literally could change from day to day. But it just, and this is one thing I want to, people have to understand, and it's our job to preach this, but you wouldn't buy a house or a nice house or a nice car and not ever change the oil or not ever try to update your house. Things are going to, it's just nature that things are going to wear out. And if you don't keep them up on a regular basis, then your highs and lows of what it takes to make them playable is going to be extreme, instead of trying to, again, find that peak time and have those preparations and plans in place to maximize what you do have.
I agree completely. And this is the conversation that we have, Dr. Brosnan, Dr. Horvath, myself, we get this question often here across the state: what grass should I choose? And we get that for everything from home lawn selection to sports field selection to golf selection. And we always start with that question of, when is your most important time of year? Are you a facility that primarily hosts shoulder season play, meaning that you're going to want to be out there the most in the spring and the fall? Are you mostly out there in the summer? When do you want it to look good? When do you want it to perform at its best? Recognizing that we don't have an option here in Tennessee that is going to look good 12 months of the year, right? So we've got to be strategic in what we choose. And I love it. Pair it with your peak season. When are you going to be using that site? That should always be our starting question, followed by understanding management capabilities. I see every year. I mean, I think you're right, Ryan, like ryegrasses have changed. I think that sometimes there's a perception that, we overseed and we can just let it burn out in the spring. And we got a lot of springs here in Tennessee where it doesn't quite work out that well, right? And so right. I think thinking about that, understanding what goes into that chemical transition to help preserve the Bermuda surface, all of these are part of that discussion. All right, so let's see, what's a good question here? What would you guys say is one of the most rewarding things about your job? Something that, I know, Bill, you said you've never worked a day in your life, but what's something that you guys have just found extremely rewarding, really fills your cup up?
Go ahead, Bill.
That's a good one. I think just the camaraderie, the the relationships that we have with so many people that have a similar interest in similar goals in mind to want to put the best product they can uh, wherever. It doesn't matter if it's a little league or at the University of Tennessee. I just I think that's a hard question. But Ryan, let me get my thoughts together.
Okay. Well, I mean, everybody wants to see their field look good on TV or whatever media they're on. And one of the coolest ones I had was we volunteered on our local little league field, and people from New York somehow got a hold of the pictures and were like, "Man, this field is awesome! Like, what are you guys doing? Why doesn't our little league field look like that?" And it's all volunteer work, and so it's like Bill said, it's that camaraderie where you get that text and say, "Man, I really appreciate you helping me get that job," or "Hey, thanks for volunteering your time. Field was great, played great. We got through a rainy tournament," or "That field looks good on TV." You know, it's great recovery after the concert. You see it all on TV all the time, and this is one of my favorite times of the year when college baseball is going on. Those guys have gone through a grind of a season, and now they're trying to host a regional or super regional and then get to the World Series, and you just get to shoot that guy a text and say, "Man, field was awesome on TV, looked great. I know you had to battle it out, but it was phenomenal." And I like giving the compliments more than receiving them, just because the camaraderie. Those guys have been through a grind, and sometimes they need to pick me up, and a quick little text does a lot for a lot of people.
I agree with that, Ryan. That's um, it's and a lot of people see when you do have a field that's I'm going to use we have been involved with the SEC baseball tournament in Hoover for for a long time, about 30 something years, so 25 or 30 years. Um, and we have this year we had 43 volunteers to come to the SEC tournament to work the games. And we have some that can come early in the week, some have to, and then they have to leave. And we have people but we'll have a field crew of 25 to 30 for 20 minutes of action and then sit and have the opportunity. We had guys from in pretty much our footprint. One guy's had to leave early to do he's doing an internship with the Kansas City Chiefs this year. Then we have a high school coach from Texas that's come with us and so we have some high school coaches that will be involved, student help at some of the universities, and just guys that uh, Ryan's dad was one of the first ones that we had down there. And when he said
He
he
sold
was been
insurance.
in this for 13 or 14 years, guess who got drug along? The old Mike Storey drug Ryan along because he didn't have any choice. But I think it's worked out well. Hopefully, that it's been a good thing. But it it's just sharing and it's a it's a as you can tell, I'm having a hard time explaining just what it is to have that relationship with so many people. And Ryan said it, to be able to call and say, "I've got a problem with hen bit or whatever." And what do you do? And just, well, this is what we did, and this worked. And um, I just think the relationships that you build is special, because until you've done it, nobody knows what it's like to have to roll a tarp out, or very few people. understand what's a roll a tarp out and pull a tarp, and then when the rain stops, you pull it off and roll it back up, and everybody thinks, well, dang, that was easy. That's they don't understand what goes into maintaining a ball field or any athletic field.
Yeah, everybody hears about a bad field because it's all over the news and the TV, but nobody hears about the good fields. They just look at them and say, "Oh, that's how it's supposed to be." So to us, no news is good news.
All right, I'm going to give you guys kind of one more question here, and I'm going to give you a chance to think about it because I'll share our GCSA points while you guys are chewing on your answer. So, my question for you is kind of to build off of what you just said. If you could share one thing with this audience about what it is to work, particularly on the sports turf side of this industry, recognizing that we got a lot of folks on here that may not work in the turf industry or may work in a very different sector of the turf industry. What would you want them to know about what it is to work in sports turf? What is something that you think a lot of folks maybe don't know and you want them to know? And while you think about that, I'm going to share our GCSAA points for the day here. So um, again, this is just if you are getting Golf Course Superintendents Association of America points. Your TDA pesticide points are already accounted for. When you completed registration, you should have provided Dr. Brosnan all the information that he needs to complete those. But these are our GCSAA member points. Okay, so Ryan, we'll start with you this time. There was one thing that you thought you wanted folks to know. What would it be?
Uh, Probably going to be one, but it's going to lead into a bunch of others. But I would say in this industry, you can't have tunnel vision. You got to take the blinders off. And working at a golf course made me a better sports turf manager. Working at a park and rec has made me a better sports turf manager. Working at a college has made me a better sports turf manager. And don't be scared to try things. Be innovative. Try something different. If something's not working, then change it up. And don't be scared to call a golf course guy. Don't be scared to call your local park and rec guy. Don't be scared to call a fertilizer salesman. Don't be scared to call somebody and ask a question, because it's not an easy profession. It's a very rewarding profession, but it's not an easy one. A lot of times you're the one that unlocks the chain around the gate to go in the field, and you're the one that locks it up at the end of the day. So you're first in, last out more times than not. And get a work-life balance. Have the wife that supports you and kids at home. There's nothing like coming home after a long day and everybody's asleep, and you're like, dang, I've been gone that long. And but when you come home and you see your kids playing on those fields that you've been working on all weekend long, and it's a good feeling. So yeah, don't be scared to branch out and try stuff. Don't be scared to branch out to other people and ask questions. Don't just take off the blinders and try a few different things. Keep up with your technologies. Use your local resources that you've got, and don't be scared to ask questions.
Bill?
That's very well said. That's I think that's been what we all do. That's gotten into this from the coaching field manager side to our side. It's there are a lot of good products out there. But it's what makes you feel comfortable in accomplishing whatever goal that you're looking for. Don't try to be something you're not. If you have a little league field, or and you talked about not having the right equipment. We started with a lawnmower that we got off the side of the road and got it running, and took the mowing deck off of it, and that was our infield drag. So but we tried to be innovative, and we didn't have zero turns or reel mowers, or we mowed with a push mower. So what whatever you have available to you, be innovative and think of things that that will make your job easier and make your fields better. It's you you never can. You I don't know of anybody that has every piece of equipment that they want. Um, no matter what level. I'm sure the Tennessee Titans have something that they would really like to have, but they don't because of budget. They can make do with some type of spiker to punch some holes in your field, and or some kind of drag that they put together from. And I've done this, put together from a chain link fence, or drag a piece of carpet around to smooth your infield out. It's up to the three wheelers and the infield machines that they have, or the spray rigs. Um, don't let that. Be innovative. Do the best you can with what you have available to you, and you can't go wrong.
Becky, I've got one more. Is for the younger guys, don't take a job because of a title. Um, Sometimes that comes with stuff that you don't necessarily get put in front of you. So don't chase a title necessarily. You'll get there one day, but don't come out of college thinking you're going to take a head job and it's going to pay you $150,000. Work your way up, use your resources, and don't be scared to try new things and be innovative.
And love what you do.
I think that's great. And, I always love chatting with you guys because you work with such a spectrum of different facilities. And I think, those that are in the turf grass industry know that sometimes it can be hard to convince others of the value of what we do, right? We get compared to food and fiber crops, or sometimes we see that turf will be vilified in general for resource use or whatever. But you start to have these discussions and you realize that turf is probably the number one agronomic system that people actually interact with over the course of their lives. We have a lot of people that may go their whole life and never step foot in a row crop field. But it's pretty unlikely that you're going to go your whole life and never step foot on a sports field. And you see the impact that these fields can have on anybody from children to fully grown adults and people watching children and adults. And you really see that it has this ripple effect of changing lives and supporting people to live their lives outdoors. And so there's just tremendous value in it. Ryan, I love hearing you talk about a little league field in particular and that volunteer work. I know there's a lot of folks on here that can relate to that sense of community and the role that turf plays in their community. So I really appreciate you guys joining us today, being on here. As I mentioned a couple times already, when you guys registered, we got everything we needed for your points. I don't see any more. Oh, maybe we do have a couple more questions here. Um, all right, nope. I think we're covered. So don't need anything else. You guys are good. Ryan, Bill, thank you so much.